Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be looking into Biden, talk about how if Republicans take over, they will crash the economy, and then I'm going to give you a few tips on what I think. Well, I wouldn't say a few tips, but what a few options I believe the Republicans will have. I am actually going to be reacting to Black conservative perspectives take on Karine Jean Pierre turns into stuttering mess after liberal media calls her out on Joe Biden lies. So without further ado, let's get into it.
The Republican leadership in Congress has made it clear they will crash the economy next year by threatening the full faith and credit of the United States for the first time in our history, putting the United States in default unless we yield to their demand to cut Social Security and Medicare. It's MAGA trickle down. MAGA trickle down. The kind of policies that have failed the country before and will fail it again.
And it is not it is reckless. It is playing a reckless game with our economy.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, does the embarrassment never, ever, ever end for the Biden administration and Democrats. And the main messenger slash chief propagandist slash affirmative action press secretary, Karine Jean Pierre, is not really helping them out because she cannot give a clear answer to any questions that are asked of her. And she especially fails when it comes to being called out on the lies of the Democrat Party. Because quite honestly, she can't defend those lies, right? She's already just bad at her job in general. But when she gets called out on her lies, she gets even worse, okay? And the mainstream liberal media has started to call Karine Jean Pierre out on the lies of the Biden administration, the Democrats, because at this point, everybody can see the writing on the wall in regards to the state of this country, especially the economy. And I want you guys to watch Karine Jean Pierre's answer in response to a reporter essentially calling out Biden as a liar when he discussed how he's supposed to be doing such a great job reducing the deficit and how he's so much better than Republicans at that. Take a look.
Yay.
Today, the president seemed to be countering some of this GOP messaging on the economy, and he told people that Republicans like to call Democrats big spenders, and people should look at the facts. But the facts don't seem to be exactly how he's painting it on some of these issues. He has claimed repeatedly that the administration reduced the deficit, but if you break it down, spending was high because of the pandemic, those programs expired, and that brought down the deficit, and then that deficit reduction was spent on canceling student loans, and then on the jobs claims that he made. He said that President Trump was the first since Hoover to lose jobs during his administration, but and he claimed that he had created 10 million new jobs, but in reality, those jobs have mostly been added back, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics says, oh.
Let's just admit it. This administration thinks we're stupid. What do you think would happen when the government decides to shut down the economy and give people checks to stay at home? Did you think those jobs that these people decide to, that these people had to quit working or were laid off, that you thought they weren't going to come back? Like, eventually the checks would stop coming, the free money would stop flowing, and these individuals would have to go out and get a job so that they can continue to spend and be the consumers that they are instead of saving. But what did you, I mean, it's one thing for those jobs to come back, and then he adds other jobs to the pool, but to sit here and try to take credit for having the jobs that came back and the jobs that were added as all one big conglomerate, some aggregated amount of jobs that you created, is just horse shit. We all know it. But, Democrats, they don't even want us to like math. They don't even want us to understand math. They think it's racist. So why would I be surprised that they would think that we're that stupid enough to not catch the lie that he created all these jobs? No, you didn't. You didn't. But let's let the press, secretary, who's the what is that, affirmative action hire, let's see how she tries to spin this. I just love it. Doesn't she look cute? Yeah, I know.
About 514,000 jobs have been newly created. So how are people supposed to take this kind of messaging on their most important issue seriously when some of this feels like smoke and mirrors?
Well, let me tell you what the American people should take very, very seriously. Let me remind you of the
Inflation?
2017, $2 trillion that was not paid for. Not paid for. So I want to be very clear about that. And let me also remind the American people of what was happening in January of 2020, January 20th or 21 of 2020, 2021, which was that American businesses, small businesses were shutting down. I just talked about schools. Only 46% of schools were shut down. There was not a real comprehensive
Who did
COVID,
that?
Response and making sure that people got shots in their arms. And
Okay. The reason why they were shut down, when it comes to schools, let's not sit here and pretend who wasn't responsible for keeping the schools shut after President Trump was no longer president. Like, why are we continuing to blame him or put pressure on that, or basically blame him for an issue that could have been null and void under Biden? He is the one who continued this whole charade of locking down schools. And if she really want to go there, she must think that Americans have a really short memory. It wasn't until September 20, I think it was 2021, when Biden was the one who mandated vaccines once the vaccines were available. And if you didn't get the vaccine, you were going to get fired from your job. And it also was another reason why schools were still kept under lockdown. Like, does she think that we're stupid? Does this whole administration think that we're stupid? Because we can come with the receipts, okay? We can come with the receipts. After the 2020 election, Joe Biden was in. He continued the lockdowns. He then decided to enact the American Rescue Plan on top of the spending packages that Donald Trump had already signed in while he was in office. And in my opinion, that last bill I don't understand why he did that. In my opinion, that last bill, that the first bill that he's basically signed in, that spending bill, in my opinion, was the one that made inflation get to where it was now. And these individuals wanted that Build Back America spending package to be well within the trillions. They wanted somewhere, the AOCs of the world wanted that spending package to be greater than freaking $5 trillion. So it's like, please, if they had gotten their way, inflation would be unbearable right now. And all the ones who would voted for this man, they would be in a whirl of hurt. So let's not pretend this is all Donald Trump's fault, okay? He definitely did sign some spending packages, but what lit the economy on fire was Biden's first spending bill, in which he wanted to outspend fucking Donald Trump, okay?
because of the American Rescue Plan, which is something that Republicans refused to work on.
I wonder why they didn't want to work on it. No, a Republican signed that. Why? Because he knew that this was reckless spending. Every Democrat, literally, who's at fault right now? Every Democrat that voted for that. Like I said, these individuals wanted even more money to be printed out and thrown into the fire, and that would eventually give us the inflation that we have. Please remember that. She just said it. Please remember that.
To vote on. The American Rescue Plan got those schools open, got those small businesses open again, and really made us and put us in a place where the economy turned back on.
Yeah, so I don't know of a worse liar in politics than the affirmative action press secretary, as we did not need stimulus. We did not need the American Rescue Plan because we were already projected to have record GDP growth coming off of the spending that we did in 2020. And
Yep.
in fact, all of the deficit reduction that Biden is taking credit for has nothing to do with him as much as it has to do with the fact that our pandemic era spending is coming to an end. But I'll let CNN, the mainstream little media, actually fact check the Biden administration and the affirmative action
What?
secretary on this.
Here are the
No.
facts. There is no
No.
doubt that the deficit has fallen under President Biden so far. It was about 3.1 trillion under President Trump in fiscal 2020. It was about $360 billion lower than that, so about 2.8 trillion in fiscal 2021, mostly under President Biden. But even with that $360 billion decline, Brianna, experts I spoke to still scoffed at the idea that President Biden is personally responsible for having reduced the deficit. In fact, one advocate of deficit reduction, Mark Goldwine of the Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, told me that this claim is almost bizarro world, a reversal of reality. Why? Well, because the deficit was expected to fall by more than $360 billion at the time President Biden took office. In fact, at the time, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office had projected that the deficit would fall by more than $870 billion in 2021 if President Biden did not implement new policy. Then President Biden came in and, like most presidents, Brianna, did new policy. There's a $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill. There was a big bipartisan infrastructure bill. There was an expansion of food stamp benefits. Whatever you think of all those policies, they all cost money.
Yeah.
So there ended up being less deficit reduction than expected. Now, President Biden likes to cite a certain economic research firm called Moody's Analytics. Here's what a senior director at Moody's, Dan White, told me last week. He said, the actions of the administration and Congress have undoubtedly resulted in higher deficits, not smaller ones. It is encouraging that the administration has proposed some initiatives to bring down the deficit, but so far, none of those initiatives has been seriously considered. Now, Brianna, people might still be confused. So if President Biden's actions have made the deficit higher than it otherwise would be, how has the deficit still fallen at all under President Biden from the end of the Trump era? In short, it's because of temporary pandemic spending. It was scheduled to expire, and it has expired.
Yep.
Basically, there was an explosion of short-term spending in Trump's last year
Yep.
because of pandemic relief programs, and tax revenue collapsed because the economy crashed. The deficit hit a record $3.1 trillion, and that was more than triple what it was the year prior. But because a lot of that 2020 spending was short-term, the deficit was almost certainly going to fall in the coming years, no matter who was president. And so again, it did end up falling in 2021, but again, it was by less than expected. So when President Biden talks about a projected 1.5 trillion decline in the deficit this year, even if that does happen this year, the deficit would still be higher this year than initially projected when he took office.
Yeah, so the unfortunate reality of the economy, guys, is that I think that we're in a damned if you do, damned if you don't
Yep.
kind of situation, which is kind of bad for the Republicans in
Yep.
the sense that we're stuck between hyperinflation and going into the next Great Depression. Now, right now, we are in a recession. And again, the problem is that we need to stop spending money. We're spending way
So yes, I would have to agree with everything, or at least the direction in which Black conservative perspective George here is going. So when it comes to options, okay, look, the downfall of the American Rescue Plan, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I do play in the markets, and seeing what has happened between Trump administration and Biden's administration, not only has it made me less of an individual who will play the market. I'm more of a holder now. If you don't understand what that means, and if you don't understand what investing versus playing in the market means, that's some research you have to do. But as an active investor, I am no longer playing in the market because of how unstable it is. And I don't even think the damage has yet to come to its full fruition. The Republicans are damned if they do something about it, and they are damned if they don't. And the reason why I believe that so is because the fallout of inflation has, the meat of it has yet to come to pass. Right now, the administration doesn't think that we're in a recession because of the unemployment rate. It doesn't match. It's not as low as they someone would expect when it's going into a recession, but that's because prices haven't caught up to us yet. I do know at my company that I work for, they had to move me to a different program because of the fact that there's just one lie that if the government doesn't pass a spending bill whenever their fiscal year comes around, then that means we will default on their loan, we will default on our debt, like President Biden at the beginning of this of George's video had said. Okay, right now in the past, since last year and this year too, we have yet to pass a spending bill. There's only been continuing resolutions, okay? I believe this is something the Republicans are going to have to keep on extending because they cannot, if you give people money, which they have been giving people free money, it would look bad on Republicans if they decided to take some of those programs back, even though that would be, in my opinion, a good thing. But everyone knows doing that as a politician is career suicide. A lot of people don't want free money to be taken away from them, even if they know that by keep getting free money, you're part of the problem. You're an individual who is contributing to inflation. So they won't take that away, but yet they will not, in my opinion, approve any new spending because it will just make the economy worse. Like I said, I do not think the damage have yet to fully come to pass. So I think next year, even if Republicans do no type of spending, none whatsoever, keep everything the way that it is now, the economy will still continue to go down. People need to actually go back to work. We still have individuals not in the labor force. Eventually, those jobs are going to have to go away. Well, they're going to slowly go away because when you don't have people working for you and you can't bring in as much revenue because you don't have 2 or 3 other people working at a location, maybe the lines might be too long. Someone say, fuck this, I'm going to the next store, or I'm going to this store. It's going to start bringing, it's going to lower the revenue in some of these businesses, and they will start to disappear. Some of those jobs will then have to disappear. But that's just what I think. Now I understand too when I would talk to a lot of my friends who were in economics back in the day when I wanted everything to be free. They will always ask me, well, where do you think we're going to pay for it? How do you think we're going to pay for it? And it will get me so upset. And what I finally realize now is that sometimes it's just better to not do anything. The steam will eventually die down. The economy will eventually level itself off with inflation, but that's going to cause people to hurt a lot. So it might be true with what Biden said, that when the Republicans come in, even with no spending, I do think the path to a recession is still going to happen. I do really believe that. Even the economists are forecasting that the economy will yet to see its worst, quarter until late 2023 or like mid 2023, mid to late 2023. I 100% agree with that. If you look at the markets, it definitely seems like every quarter slowly keeps going down. But, this is what the Biden administration expects. They don't think that their base or the American people are smart enough to try to figure this stuff out. But, slowly we'll catch up and then they'll wake up. If gas prices and formula prices and everything else haven't, switch something in their brain to say, maybe our president doesn't know exactly what he's doing with our economy. Maybe we need someone to run this country like a businessman. Then they're just a lost hope. And I wouldn't want to be in their shoes when reality hits. But thanks for tuning in. Have a nice day.